They didn't just burn a supermarket. They burned the truth. MAGUNA'S supermarket wasn't looted. It was targeted, and the ones holding the stones wore government uniforms. Caught on camera, Kenya's police not stopping the fire, but feeding it, breaking glass, clearing the way for the flames to consume everything. This was not a riot. It was a message. And just as the ashes settled, the country's loudest voice of truth silenced. Zachary Kuki, beloved comedian, political satirist, fearless critic of power, dead. No reason, no report, just gone. 2 events, 1 week, and one terrifying question. What happens when the state stops pretending, when those paid to protect you come to destroy you? If you're black, if you're old enough to remember Birmingham, Soweto, or Baltimore, you've seen this before. History doesn't repeat. It reloads. Subscribe now, because they fear exposure more than rebellion. Share this, because silence is the system's greatest defense. And stay with us, because what's burning in Kenya is the mask of power itself. It began with smoke, a thin, eerie trail rising above MAGUNA'S supermarket, a trusted, family-run business in the heart of Kenya's central region. But what came next was not looting, not spontaneous chaos. It was betrayal. Caught on camera, millions have now seen the footage. Uniformed police officers, in broad daylight, not defending the store, but destroying it, not stopping the flames, but inviting them in, rock after rock, baton after baton, striking the thick glass meant to keep danger out. And once that glass shattered, the fire obeyed no one. Let this sink in. That supermarket wasn't saved. It was offered up. The heat had been contained. Flames licked the outside, but the structure held until the very people meant to shield it broke it open. This wasn't panic. This wasn't confusion. It was coordinated. It was methodical. It was deliberate. The attack was not in isolation. In the days that followed, similar tactics were reported in Kisumu and Nuru. The same eerie pattern unrest, followed by targeted destruction and silent officers. Eyewitnesses, terrified but brave, told grassroots reporters the same story. Police didn't block the vandals. They protected them. They formed human shields, not to defend citizens, but to cover the ones doing the damage. And still, the government said nothing. President William Ruto addressed the nation not with truth, but with deflection. These are isolated incidents, he claimed. Isolated. Then, how many isolated fires does it take before it becomes a strategy? Because what happened at MAGUNA'S wasn't just destruction of property, it was a declaration. A declaration that some businesses, some communities, some citizens are no longer protected. They are marked for the Kikuyu community, long entrepreneurs, long builders of economy. This wasn't just a loss, it was a warning. You are not safe. Not from fire, not from silence, and not from the ones wearing the badge. But maybe the question isn't why. Maybe the real question is who gave the order. Because these officers didn't act randomly. They were in formation, they had gear, they had direction, they had purpose. So again, who lit the match? This wasn't a riot. It was a performance. A show of force, masked as instability. A fire started not to destroy, but to send a message. And for those watching from Baltimore, from Accra, from Brixton, you've seen this script before. It's the same playbook, recycled from Mississippi to Mombasa. A community rises, and suddenly, chaos erupts. And when the smoke clears, it's always the same people left, holding the ashes. But Kenya is not a footnote. This is happening now. And MAGUNA'S, once a proud symbol of resilience, is now rubble, burned not by mobs, but by betrayal wearing a badge. He wasn't just funny, he was fearless. Zachary Kuki didn't just perform comedy, he performed truth. The kind of truth that dares to speak when others whisper, the kind that can't be buried unless you bury the man himself. And now, Kenya is trying to do just that. One of the most recognizable voices in modern Kenyan satire, Kuki made a name by doing what few dared, mocking power to its face. He could turn parliament into a punchline and a cabinet minister into a comedy skit. And he did it all with such elegance, they couldn't jail him, so they erased him. His death, announced quietly, without medical cause, without police inquiry, without a single official comment, tells you everything you need to know. This wasn't a tragedy. It was a message. Kuki didn't go quietly. He was silenced. Known across the diaspora as Kenya Kwanza Mo, Kuki carved a space in a media landscape gripped by fear. Where journalists tread lightly, he stomped. Where entertainers played it safe, he danced with danger. He impersonated Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua so convincingly, so hilariously, it made headlines in Ghana, in London, in New York. Yet, it wasn't just the impression, it was the indictment. Kuki laced his jokes with fact, with fury, with a fearlessness that made every laugh come with a sting. He highlighted police brutality, mocked rising prices, exposed hypocrisy in the education system. He made the political feel personal and the personal impossible to ignore. In repressive regimes, voices like his are always targeted. Sometimes through arrest, sometimes through accidents, sometimes through silence. And that's exactly what followed his death silence. No medical report, no statement from the Ministry of Health, not even a social media mention from the leaders he used to mimic. The man who made a nation laugh was laid to rest like a secret. And that silence, it's not just suspicious, it's strategic. Kuki wasn't just an artist, he was a pressure valve. In a country where protest is punished, he gave people a way to breathe. He let them say what they couldn't dare post. He let them feel seen, even when the cameras were turned away. And that kind of voice is dangerous not to the people, but to the powerful. Let's not forget what happened in 2021. King Wangi, another satirist, was arrested for mocking the president in a skit aired on national television. He was released but blacklisted. Sponsors vanished. Gigs evaporated. He was never seen on screen again. Kuki saw that, and still, he spoke. Still, he performed. Still, he stood. Until now. And now, his peers are retreating. Comedians across Kenya are deactivating accounts. Some have deleted all political content. A few have fled the country altogether. The fear is real, because when an entertainer dies mysteriously and no one in government even flinches, that's not coincidence. That's intimidation. What does it say about Kenya and about all of us when satire becomes a death sentence? And perhaps most chilling of all, Kuki's death came just days after the Maguna fire. After footage emerged of police in uniform igniting destruction, after communities began asking questions, and then suddenly, Kenya's sharpest truth teller is gone. Coincidence or cleansing? Because his death served two purposes. One, to remove the voice. Two, to remind the rest of us what happens when voices rise too high. There will be no state funeral, no national day of mourning, no television tribute, just hashtags, whispers, and a silence that feels like a scream. But silence does not erase legacy. It amplifies it. Kuki lives in every young Kenyan with a camera and a question. He lives in every elder who chuckled, nodded, and said, he's telling the truth. He lives in us, the diaspora, the descendants, the defiant. So today we ask, not just who killed Zachary Kuki, but What are we willing to do with the truth he left behind? If you believe this is what Africa needed all along, say Amen in the comments below. Say his name, share his clips, tell his story. Because if the truth is dangerous, then telling it is revolutionary. It wasn't just a fire. It was a statement loud, cruel, and calculated. And the worst part, it came not from the shadows, but from the uniforms sworn to protect. When Maguna's supermarket burned, it wasn't chaos. It was choreography. By now, over 2 million people have seen the footage. Police, not rioters. Not looters, police. Smashing reinforced glass. Not once, not twice. Repeatedly. Stone after stone. Baton after baton. Breaking the very barrier that held the flames at bay. This was no accident. This was no misunderstanding. This was precision. And when that glass finally shattered, the inferno surged inside, swallowing rice, oil, bread, memories. A family-run business built over decades, reduced to cinders in minutes, and all of it under the silent watch of men with badges. But why? Why would trained officers, men equipped to contain flames, instead fuel them? In any functional democracy, this footage would trigger resignations, arrests, outrage. In Kenya, it triggered deflection. President William Ruto referred to the incident as an unfortunate situation. He called it isolated. But what if it wasn't? Because in the hours and days that followed the Maguna blaze, reports came flooding in. Kisumu, Nuru, Kariko, different towns. Same blueprint. Unrest begins. Officers deploy. Damage escalates not in spite of the police, but under their escort. Multiple eyewitnesses describe the same sickening pattern. A cordon of officers not stopping the violence but shielding it, letting arsonists slip through, then retreating, just in time for the fire to catch. One witness, a Boda Boda rider named Elijah, told grassroots reporters, "I watched them open the path. I shouted. They looked me in the eye and turned away." This is not law enforcement. It's enforcement of fear. And in all of this, no officer has been charged. Not one has been named. Not one statement has been made by the Ministry of Interior. Why? Because this wasn't about law and order. It was about control. Control through terror. Control through fire. Control through silence. And who were the targets? The Kikuyu community. The very people who built MAGUNA'S, the same group historically marginalized in Kenya's political waves, especially in moments of protest, from the 2007 election violence, to the 2013 ethnic profiling, to the silence in 2025. History doesn't repeat. It targets, and this time, it came with stones wrapped in uniforms. The Maguna fire wasn't just a loss of inventory. It was a message to Kikuyu business owners. You are no longer under protection. You are under warning. And to older viewers watching from Eldoret to Atlanta, does this sound familiar? The fires, the denial, the uniforms turning their backs. It rhymes with the darkest pages of civil rights history, from Alabama churches torched in the 60s to Nairobi. Supermarkets burned in 2025. It's the same injustice, just a different accent. And while politicians dance around the word accountability, we are left asking, who gave the order? Because someone did. Police don't move like that without direction. They don't act in unison without command. And they certainly don't abandon a burning building unless they're told to. So where's that command? Where is the investigation? Where are the body cams? Where are the statements? Nowhere. Instead, we get headlines blaming youth unrest. We get press releases about gang activity. We get silence, thick and suffocating, dressed up as spin. But truth doesn't die in fire. It survives in memory. The diaspora is watching Communities in Baltimore, Brixton, Accra, Johannesburg, they've seen this play before, and they know when fire is used as a weapon, someone is holding the match. Captain Ibrahim's latest news is trending again, and so is the question that haunts Kenya today. Who really set the fire at MAGUNA'S? When your shop burns, when your children are arrested, when your community mourns in silence, and then the government turns around and blames you, that's not coincidence. That's a calculated script. And the Kikuyu are reading it line by line. Because in the aftermath of the Maguna blaze, the victims were not offered justice. They were handed guilt. It started subtly, a few statements from ministers, a sly accusation during a speech in Embu. They are destabilizing the government. They are stirring unrest. And just like that, a narrative was born, one not built on facts but fear. Suddenly, every Kikuyu shop owner became a suspect. Every youth in a hoodie was a potential terrorist. Every prayer meeting was politically motivated. And we ask again, based on what evidence? The Kikuyu people are Kenya's backbone. Farmers, traders, teachers, builders, from Nairi to Nairobi. They've built economies where governments failed. And yet, when the fire came, they were cast not as citizens needing protection, but as threats needing surveillance. Is this what Kenya has become? We've seen this pattern before. 2007, election violence. Entire Kikuyu neighborhoods burned. Hundreds killed. No justice. 2013, ethnic profiling resurfaces. Jobs denied. Names blacklisted. Media silences the pattern. 2025, supermarkets burned. Youth arrested. And the same question again. Who benefits from blaming the Kikuyu? Because if the state can make the largest ethnic group in Kenya feel like outsiders, what hope is left for national unity? Let's be clear. No one is asking for special treatment. We are asking for truth. Because it was not the Kikuyu who threw stones into MAGUNA'S. It was not the Kikuyu who erased Zachary Kuki. It was not the Kikuyu who handed stones to uniformed officers. And yet, they are being punished. Not for what they did, but for what they represent. Strength, self-reliance, memory. And that's dangerous to a system built on silence across Kikuyu towns. Murals of unity have been defaced. Properties allegedly sympathetic to Kikuyu leaders are marked, listed, and boycotted. It's whisper warfare, unseen, unspoken, deadly, and still, a hope survives. In Eldoret, Luo youth helped rebuild a Kikuyu-run bookshop brick by brick. In Kisii, elders from both sides held a joint prayer vigil. And in Mombasa, a Swahili fisherman said words that should echo across the continent. If their house burns, ours will catch flame too. Because fire has no tribe. Pain has no ethnicity. And justice must have no borders. Yet we ask again, how would it feel to be blamed for a fire you didn't start? How would it feel to see your child arrested while the real arsonists walk free? How would it feel to wake up every day wondering if your last name is a liability? If you feel that anger, if you feel that fear, comment Amen below. Let Kenya know. The world sees. The diaspora stands. Africa remembers. Because this is no longer about Kikuyu alone. It is about a nation, a people, a future being shaped in fire and fear. And if Kenya does not confront this now, it risks becoming a country ruled not by laws, but by labels. They say the camera never lies. But in today's Kenya, the camera tells the truth, and the news buries it. When the Maguna supermarket burned, it wasn't just smoke that clouded the nation. It was silence, strategic, surgical, sinister, footage of uniformed officers breaking the glass, letting the firing spread like wildfire online. TikTok, Telegram, Facebook, over 860. 0 views in 48 hours. One video even caught an officer yelling, "Break it," before smashing the reinforced window. But when you turned on your television, nothing. Citizen Television skipped the story entirely. K24 aired a cropped version showing only crowd unrest, not the uniforms. And the Daily Nation's front page, just smoke, caption, rioters, torch, store, amid tensions. Not one mention of police, not one challenge to the official story. And this is not new. Back in 2021, Kisumu bled during protests. Video showed officers firing at unarmed demonstrators. But local news, protesters clash with police. That's how they framed it. Even after the UN condemned the shootings. This isn't journalism. This is narrative management. Why? Because truth is dangerous. And when media becomes a mouthpiece for power, truth becomes the first casualty. Grassroots reporters, boda riders, shopkeepers, pastors, all gave statements, all said the same thing. We saw the police do it. But mainstream media refused to listen. They blamed verification issues. They cited safety protocols. But behind every excuse was the same cold fear. Retaliation. Lose your license. Lose your funding. Lose your life. In Kenya today, media outlets are not protecting truth. They're protecting themselves. And in doing so, they fail the people, because when a nation's biggest supermarket burns and the only videos come from teenagers on TikTok, you have to ask, what is the media hiding? And more importantly, who told them to think about this? When state institutions control the story, they also control the blame. And in Kenya's case, that blame was swiftly pointed at the Kikuyu. The logic, they must be behind the chaos. They want to destabilize the government. But what about the footage? What about the eyewitnesses? What about the truth? It didn't matter. Because when the story is written before the fire is even out, facts become irrelevant. Only fear remains. This strategy is not unique to Kenya. From Nigeria to Uganda, from Senegal to Zimbabwe, it's the same playbook. Control the press. Control the people. Suppress the fire's cause. Blame the flames on someone else. But we are not blind. From Birmingham to Baltimore, from Nairobi to New York, the African diaspora sees what's happening. Maguna Truth and Kenya Burning are trending again. Not because of CNN, not because of BBC, but because everyday people are saying, enough. And that should terrify the system, because when truth can't breathe on television, it will scream through smartphones. It will leap across oceans. It will land in inboxes. It will echo through WhatsApp groups and family calls. And once it's out, they can't bury it again. So we say, to every editor who looked away, to every anchor who read the script and not the story, to every station that chose silence over integrity, you are not just complicit. You are dangerous. Because when the truth is hidden, the fire burns longer. And this time, it's not just one building. It's the people's trust, their hope, their belief in the system. And when that burns, there's no water left in your headlines to put it out. The flames may be gone, but something is still burning. Not in the supermarket, not in the streets, but in the hearts of the people. A fire of betrayal, a fire of awakening. From the moment Zachary Kuki's voice was silenced, to the image of officers breaking the glass at MAGUNA'S, this was never just about riots or looting. It was a message. They burned food. They burned futures. But most of all, they tried to burn the truth. And yet, the truth walks. It breathes. It remembers. The silence of Vice President Gachagua is not an accident. The lack of accountability is not confusion. The headlines that avoided the truth are not oversight. It is all by design. From the arrest of innocent youth, to the manipulation of ethnic fear, to the silence on television screens. This is not disorder. It is strategy. And the message from the state was simple. Obey. Be quiet. Be afraid. But we reject that message because what burned at MAGUNA'S was not just a building. It was the illusion that justice works equally. It was the trust that power protects the people. Now, the mask has fallen. And from Kenya to Ghana, from Birmingham to Atlanta, people are watching, not just with pain, but with purpose. If Zachary Kuki's laughter once brought us joy, his silence should bring us resolve. If the supermarket blaze brought sorrow, let it now bring fire to our spirits. Because we understand now. We understand how they move. We understand how they spin. And we will not be fooled again. So we ask you this. Was Kuki's death only bad timing? Was the Maguna fire just another chaotic day? Or was it a message written in smoke and silence? If you believe truth must be protected, comment Africa Rise below. And if this story moved you in any way, if it made you feel something real, then do not just move on. Subscribe, share this message, speak to someone about it. Because for too long, they buried our voices. Now we speak loudly. Thank you for being here. We will see you in the next video for news analysis. The truth they do not want you to know. Captain Ibrahim, latest news. Burkina Faso, latest news.